evening and welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines here in the south. 400 fewer police officers, £11 million of savings. So, how will the Chief Constable of Sussex find the money and protect the public?
The generous benefactor who has pledged millions to a cancer centre in Southampton that could save thousands of lives.
Elizabeth's journey, one family's attempts to escape the Holocaust on this Memorial Day. The survivors and the victims.
And you're never too young, why newborn babies are being put on the books of our local libraries, including Hampshire. Good evening. Sussex Police is due to axe another 400 officers as the force looks to save more than £11 million this year.
More than 400 officer jobs have gone since 2010. Today, the Chief Constable, Giles York, set out his plans on how he'd save the money and continue to protect the public.
Well, in a moment, we'll speak to the Sussex Police and Crime Commissioner, Katie Bourne, who quizzed the Chief Constable this afternoon. First, here's John Ryle.
And what that allows us to do is the conversation.
Question time for the Chief Constable of Sussex, facing yet another raid on his budget, required to enforce cuts of £11.3 million this year. In a 2-hour scrutiny session live-streamed on the internet, Sussex Police and Crime Commissioner Katie Bourne wanted to know how he was going to do it without compromising public safety.
It is an enormous amount of money, and of course it's on the back of already having made significant savings as well, and more savings to make in the future. There's a real balance we have to strike between making the savings and investing in the new demands, meeting the new demands that are coming at us.
But Sussex Police Federation says it's more serious than that this latest round of savings, with 3 more years of cuts ahead, will hit policing at all levels, in all areas.
Since 2010 to 2015, we lost over 400 officers in Sussex, and the plan from 2015 to 2020 is to lose a further 500. That impacts us across the piece. So officers covering from response through to investigations, RPU, dogs, all will have seen reductions.
And this is one place where reduced police visibility is felt strongly. Cuts here in Uckfield and at what was a fairly major police base at East Grinstead have had a big impact.
I just wonder, if you did need them, where are they? You know, how long are you going to have to wait for somebody if you're in dire straits or in trouble?
You don't see any policemen walking around, and if you phone for the police, they're busy or they haven't got enough people to do it.
A blunt warning today from rank-and-file officers that this is an austerity budget too far, putting the public and the police at risk. John Ryle, ITV News.
Katie Bourne, Sussex Police and Crime Commissioner, thanks very much for joining us. Number of police officers down, burglaries in Sussex on the rise. You're asking your Chief Constable to find another £11 million of savings. Rather than asking those difficult questions of the Chief Constable, wouldn't you be better off putting those difficult questions to your Conservative government?
Well, burglaries have risen, but this is a national issue as well. And the Chief Constable was quite clear today when he gave me the reasons why. And Sussex is still a very low crime area. As far as police officers go, we are investing in those areas now, and that's why the precept is rising.
But shouldn't you be asking the government for support, not your Chief Constable?
The government have actually protected police funding for the next 4 years, but there is an expectation on all public agencies, not just the police, to continue to find efficiencies and to find savings. Policing is having to change, and therefore the model for policing is changing as well, and we are investing in the areas that are critical to members of the public, particularly local policing, but we're uplifting our firearms officers as well with the terrorism threats at the level of severe. We're also investing in public protection, so looking after the vulnerable people, and particularly those who are victims of serious sexual offences.
£11 million of cuts, but you can honestly say, hand on heart, this will not affect the safety of any single person in Sussex.
I think it's really important that the police, along with all public sector organisations, continue to work effectively within budgets. And budgets will continue to decrease as we go forwards. So what I'm clear about is that the police are as effective and as efficient as they can be. And this new policing model that the Chief Constable is rolling out across Sussex, my job is to scrutinise and monitor that. And I'm confident that the public and Sussex will remain a low crime area and continue that way forwards.
We shall watch with interest. Katie Bourne, thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.
Other news, a 60-year-old man's been arrested on suspicion of murdering a woman on the Isle of Wight. Police were called to the Avenue at Gurnard last night. A 45-year-old woman was found seriously ill but died at St Mary's Hospital. The man from Sandown remains in police custody.
A 16-year-old boy has been arrested after a man suffered a fractured skull in Wimborne. The victim, in his 40s, left the Cricketers' Arms and was walking towards Crown Mead last Saturday night when he was pushed from behind. He only discovered how serious the injuries were when he went to hospital the following night.
It will be a world-leading cancer centre that should save thousands of lives. Work to build the multi-million-pound research unit in Southampton is nearing completion.
The Cancer Immunology Centre, part of the university, will be the first of its kind in the UK, and amazingly, almost the entire project has been funded by donations. The latest announced just today. Richard Jones has the story.
Charlotte Moss has been following the centre's development with great interest. She was diagnosed with skin cancer 6 years ago and was treated with a new immunotherapy drug, which researchers from the university helped to develop.
It was explained to me that your body's own immune system is very, very good at what it does. And it's doing, this drug is trying to boost your immune system to say, it's okay, find the cancer cells, they know it's there, just go and attack them and do your job.
Charlotte has now been cancer-free for 5 years, and many other patients like her are benefiting from the work of researchers like Dr. Ed James. He says immunotherapy drugs can work in some cases where all other treatments have failed.
We have patients who have exhausted all the current therapies. They essentially have nowhere else to go. And with these new immunotherapy drugs that release the brakes on these killer T cells, we're seeing these people with cancers, tumours throughout their body actually seeing an amazing reaction to these drugs, so that these cancers are actually shrinking very quickly within weeks and months and actually disappearing to make them cancer-free essentially.
But the drugs don't work for everyone, and researchers here will be trying to find out why, as well as carrying out more trials and helping to treat increasing numbers of patients. By the end of the year, Ed will be working in here, brand new state-of-the-art labs that will enhance Southampton University's reputation as a world leader in cancer research. Donor James Vernon, who studied at Southampton and made his money in banking, has just given £1.3 million to the centre.
It takes us over the 20 million mark, which is a real push to the campaign that's been going for only about 18 months. So we've raised that 20 million, almost 21 million, entirely from philanthropic donation.
The total cost of the project is 25 million, so while fundraising has gone well, there's more to do. The next push for funds will be made on World Cancer Day on February the 4th. Richard Jones, ITV News, Southampton.
Empty council buildings in Brighton and Hove could be opened up for homeless people. The plan by the Green Party has been backed by all parties at the council if community groups and charities are willing to step in. Government figures show Brighton has more than 140 rough sleepers, the biggest increase anywhere in the country.
About 60% of those were they didn't have a local connection, they weren't from Brighton. And the reason they're coming to our city is it's a very friendly, tolerant city, it's a nice place to be, and people can get actually a lot of good homeless services here.
Well, for more on all of our stories, head to itv.com/Meridian. Any views or any news, you can give us a call. The number is on your screen, or you can get in touch via Facebook or send us a tweet. Now, Now, special services of commemoration have been taking place across the region to remember 6 million Jewish people murdered by the Nazi regime across Europe in the 1940s.
Indeed, Holocaust Memorial Day events were held in many towns, such as this one in Basingstoke, giving people a chance to remember all those who lost their lives and to hear from people who escaped just in time.
Well, Duncan Slightholme has been hearing the story of Elizabeth Owen from Dorset, who escaped from Austria in 1938 as the Nazis took control.
A flick through her photo albums brings Elizabeth Owen's memories of Vienna in the 1930s into sharp focus. She escaped aged 6 as the Nazi regime was taking hold. Her mother had found employment as a cook for a wealthy family in England, and they took a train from Austria, bribing the border guards with an apple strudel.
We were seen off by I can remember my mother's father and mother, and seeing us off, we went by train. And I remember my grandfather saying in German, die werde ich nie mehr sehen. I will never see her again. And of course he was right.
On the 12th of March 1938, the Nazis declared the Anschluss, or joining of Austria to Germany. As Hitler's troops marched across the border, many people gave them a warm welcome. But within days, tens of thousands of Jews and political opponents had been arrested and sent to concentration camps.
Everybody's got their own story, but they're so similar. Somebody came to my parents' flat, I was told, and just marched in, and they had to go, you know, everything was there, and they just took over.
Elizabeth believes her father's brothers went to the Dachau concentration camp. By the time it was liberated by the Americans in 1945, tens of thousands of people had died. Elizabeth has little knowledge of what happened to other family members, but many people from Vienna were taken on to concentration camps and then to extermination camps at Treblinka and Auschwitz.
I think it's, when an evil regime, takes control, as it did in Nazi Germany, and everybody follows. It happens in lots of countries. There are lots of dictators who instigate torture, and you've only got to watch the news now. I mean, that's what happened, and they were victims. My family and millions of other people were the victim.
Elizabeth thanks England for the life she's had, conscious that millions of others weren't as fortunate. Duncan Slightholme, ITV News.
Tragic but important memories. The ITV Evening News continues with the national and the international news at 6:30. Let's now get a preview to London and Charlene White.
Theresa May holds talks with Donald Trump at the White House. The Prime Minister also laid a wreath at Arlington National Cemetery. She's the first foreign leader to visit the new president. Here, 2 men are jailed over a tipper truck crash that killed 3 men and a 4-year-old girl. And they've got talent. Ant and Dec are honoured at the Palace. Join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Now, we all know the value of reading, whatever your age. In fact, a study by Sussex University says parents should read actual books to their children rather than electronic tablets if they want to create an emotional bond.
Yes, well, now some councils, including those in Hampshire, are going a step further by issuing newborn babies, would you believe, with library cards when their parents register the birth. With more, Lauren Hall.
They may be too young to read, but apparently not too young to enjoy a book. This library is trying to encourage parents to bring their children in as soon as they're born, with a little help from the local registration service.
You're here to register a birth?
Yeah.
We are, yeah.
This couple's come to register the birth of their daughter, April. As well as her birth certificate, the registrar has something else for them.
I can issue you with a library card here.
Yeah. At just a couple of weeks old, April now has her own library membership. It's all thanks to a new scheme being tried out by her local authority.
We've got a captive audience, parents are registering the birth of their baby. Why don't we offer them a library card at the same time? And it was just such a simple idea. We thought, why haven't we done that before?
April and her parents were soon making the most of it and enjoying their first book together.
I think all the excitement's tired her out a bit, to be honest. As you can see, she's fast asleep, but I think it's a real good opportunity for her to learn and take a good step in life.
It's a really calming environment, as you can tell. So, yeah, obviously has good effects on babies.
She's not normally that quiet.
No, definitely not. And not at 3 o'clock in the morning either.
No wonder so many parents are bringing in their babies. 50 newborns have joined the library since the scheme began a few weeks ago. A number of other local authorities also offer library cards when parents register their child's birth. And it's hoped the scheme will eventually be rolled out across the country.
All the research shows that if you start reading to your child, even from a very young age, it helps with their communication skills, their learning and their brain development. And also it's really good for the bonding between the mother and child, and the father and child indeed.
Parents here agree it's a good idea.
I think it's really good to encourage children to read and to get them started young, definitely, yes.
I think it's a good start for the baby because it's a place where they can learn, meet new babies and make new friends.
If you're starting them young, I think that's probably the best way to encourage them to read and to use their libraries.
I think for their development, brain development, language skills, and just to keep them entertained and educated.
And to send them to sleep.
And yes, to send them to sleep.
Now there's a reason to bring them in. And when they do wake up, there's plenty of books to keep them entertained. Lauren Hall, ITV News.
Right, here's a lovely little reader with your sport, Andrew Pate. Patey, we're up for cup.
We're up for cup, the magic of the FA Cup, yes, because it is the 4th round of the FA Cup this weekend, with all roads leading to Wembley. 3 of our sides are still in the competition, with Brighton aiming to avoid an upset against non-league Lincoln City, especially having seen the conference side knock out a fellow Championship team.
Most of what we've seen and concentrated on is the Ipswich game, and in both the games against them, home and away, they were very good. So we know how tough the game can possibly be.
So, Brighton travel to Lincoln tomorrow afternoon, while Oxford United host Geordie Giants, Newcastle, and Southampton welcome Arsenal at 5:30. The Saints already have one match at Wembley, where they'll take on Manchester United in the EFL Cup final. United booking their place last night. They actually lost at Hull, but went through 3-2 on aggregate. Southampton's manager says he's proud of his team.
It's a fantastic moment for the club, for all the squad, and I said a good reward with the strong work and to see Wembley. Now it's important to come back the FA Cup and against a great opponent.
And this is what it means to Saints fans this dad watching their late winner at Liverpool. Yeah, I'd never do that. In the Championship tomorrow, Reading will hope to cut the gap between them and the top 2 against Cardiff. In League 1 and 2, Swindon and Crawley are both on the road, while Portsmouth could move into the automatic promotion places if they beat Exeter. Now, Sussex-based Olympian Sarah Ayton is an expert out on the water, of course, winning golds in Athens and Beijing, but she's somewhat of a novice as a jockey. So a charity horse race down Goodwood Straight in front of thousands will be tough. Sarah has until August to prepare for the Magnolia Cup, and Emma Wilkinson met up with her for one of her first riding lessons.
I cannot believe he spent the whole match on the bench.
Are you ever going to get off the bench?
Selco, sponsoring ITV Meridian Sports Report.
2008, Sarah Ayton celebrating the 2nd Olympic gold medal of her sailing career. Now she's back in training with her performance coach, but this time for a very different challenge.
And I want you to try and adopt your race position.
She's learning to become a jockey for the Magnolia Cup, a charity race at the Qatar Goodwood Festival on Ladies' Day. To compete, she must pass a series of rigorous tests.
She's going to be riding a horse anything up to 40 miles an hour. And for 2 minutes, she's going to be absolutely pushed to the limits. Her legs are going to be burning, her heart's going to be pounding. She's going to need to be as fit as she can be. We're going to crank your level up at the side, use your gearing.
Having 2 small kids, it's, life is busy, but I've got the bike set up in the kitchen, so whilst they're having breakfast, I can do my interval training, and then when they go to bed, I get out in the gym and do my weight training. So everything that we do is really designed to fit around my family life and also as a working mum.
Sarah has around 6 months to be race ready. This year, the Cup will raise money for Place to Be, a children's mental health charity. It's also about celebrating inspirational women. The silks will be made by prominent female fashion designers, and the 12 riders have all achieved huge success in their respective careers. What they have in common is little or no experience of horse riding. Sarah tried it once as a child.
There was a reason I stopped, and that was because I was absolutely petrified. So it's a massive challenge, but it is those hours, just trying to get those hours riding, so I'm feeling really comfortable in the saddle, and also just understanding understanding a horse.
This horse will hopefully give you a feel of the next step.
When you line up on the start line with 5 furlongs ahead of you, just straight grass, and you've got a horse underneath you who's raring to go, it's a scary experience, and these guys are so brave taking this on.
Brave, and in Sarah's case, determined to win. And if she does, could a change of sport be on the cards?
You never know, do you? I think if you love something and you're really enjoying it, then you just never know where it will lead to.
Emma Wilkinson, ITV News.
And we'll be following Sarah all the way.
You certainly will. Beautifully read, Andrew. Thank you very much. Meanwhile, it's Monte Carlo or bust for some intrepid petrol heads who set off on their way to the south of France.
They're all taking part in the Monte Carlo Classic Rally, some in cars which took part in the world-famous event over 50 years ago. Martin Fisher reports.
This is Barnaby Moor, Nottinghamshire, and the first-time control point of the Monte Carlo Rally. The first car to leave Glasgow early this morning at 3:44 was Jaguar car 133, and the driver was Mr. Frank Ward, who comes from Warwickshire. Now, Frank, were you the first in here this morning?
Yes. Back to the future, and decades later, the cars are the same, but thankfully we're in colour now. Final preparations underway to try and get these vehicles all the way to Monaco.
It's quite sad, really, that the car is actually newer than either of the crew, and the combined age of crew and car is 198.
And some did need a little help to get going. The hotel here has a long-standing association with the race and first acted as a checkpoint back in 1959.
The original Monte Carlo Rally used to leave from Glasgow, come here, checkpoint, and then go off on their way down to Calais. So we were quite privileged to be the only one.
And some came dressed, ready for the casino.
This is our only chance for an award on this rally, you see, best dressed, that's about it.
And also, driving the MGB, there's no space, so we had to wear our dinner suits for the gala dinner at the end, rather than pack them.
So you're ready for when you arrive? Well, straight to Casino Square.
For others, it was going to be an emotional journey.
My wife was going to be my co-driver, but sadly she passed away quite recently, but she made me a promise to do it. So I've got Moira on the windscreen here, up there. So she's with us, and she's telling us that the light's just gone to red. You're in the 30-mile-an-hour zone, so she's with us all the way to Monte Carlo.
And no Monte Carlo event would be complete without this little red beauty.
I think the last works mini was sold for £125,000.
£125,000, and you're going to take it through snow and rough tracks all the way to the south of France?
It's a rally car. It's a rally car.
Now, this isn't the biggest car here, but it's definitely my favourite. This is the Classic Mini. It took part in the rally in 1967, driven by Paddy Hopkirk. Didn't win that year, came sixth. A poor choice of tyres let it down. But really, this rally is what made the Mini's name, and to see it racing again today is something special. And so they were off, with mountains, snow and ice ahead of them, but all determined to make it to Monte Carlo or bust. Martin Fisher, ITV News.
Smashing. Meanwhile, Maidenhead MP and Prime Minister, of course, Theresa May has become the first world leader to meet the new US President Donald Trump. It's her 21st overseas trip. In scenes unimaginable just a year ago, she flew into Washington this afternoon and was welcomed by Mr. Trump to the White House. Footage just in of them both by the bust of, quite rightly, Sir Winston Churchill.
This is the original in many ways. In many ways. And it's a great honour to have Winston Churchill back.
Well, the Prime Minister working towards renewing the famed special relationship between the UK and the US, with Donald Trump already referring to her as My Maggie in reference to Margaret Thatcher.
Well, Mrs May has been Maidenhead's MP since 1997 and she's a tough talker in the past as the then Home Secretary going up against the Police Federation. But with President Trump's notoriously thin skin and unpredictable behaviour, how do the people of Maidenhead think she will get on?
They are like chalk and cheese, and I think she said something along those lines, and maybe opposites do attract, as she said. So I'm confident that there will be fruitful discussions between them.
She just had to be really cautious and be smart.
I don't think she handled him very well. She's a stronger woman.
I hope it goes well, but I don't put out much hope. He seems a bit of a loony to me.
I think she can handle him. I've met her and I think so, yeah, definitely.
Don't
Say it as
sugarcoat
it
it, yeah.
Here's another man who doesn't sugarcoat it, Simon.
Yeah, a nice scarf that chap was wearing. I couldn't help but notice because I completely missed what he was saying. But it's been very cold, as you've probably noticed. Things are changing, but before they do, let's just relive some of the glories of winter. And if you're wondering how you get a gorgeous ice sculpture like Martin's in Wolverhampton, you just let a burst pipe leak all over your plant on a cold night. Turns out like that. A lovely pattern here that Wonder Tandy found on the end of a stick in a bucket of ice in Littlehampton. Looks like a feather, doesn't it? Yeah. And here are the ice crystals that formed on Paul Dwyer's fence when he said it was a tad cold. Ooh. A bit of an understatement, but as this picture from Michael Trayford in Hartley Whitney proves, despite the cold and the thick frost, still possible to get a birdie on the golf course. Hey. Or two, as the case may be. Despite this cold weather, Linda Barker's primroses seem to be thriving in Worthing. Look, frost-defying flowers they are. And Ben Cowdrey in Romsey took this photo at the Hillier Gardens. They are our first daffodils of the year, which would suggest we're just this far away from spring.
How far away from spring are we?
Well, probably more like this, this far away.
A spring-like weekend? Yeah. Yeah. Let's find out. Simon Parkin.
From blizzards to pool, driving through Europe. Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
Well, now, if you're up for a bit of bird watching this weekend, you can find full details about the Big Garden Bird Watch on my blog on our website at itv.com/Meridian. But you might want to have your umbrella with you because through the weekend things are going to turn, well, a little bit damp. As we speak, we've got a weather front that's pushing its way eastwards through the night tonight. Dry spell tomorrow afternoon, and then come Sunday we see the next lot of rain push in from the west. Now, the good side of things is that temperatures are creeping up, getting back to where they should be for the time of year. So gone are the very cold conditions. And tonight will be a relatively mild night. Frost-free, but with rain pushing up from the south for the first part of the night. Generally quite patchy, that rain. Then it merges with the main rain band out to the west. And as that starts to drift eastwards later on in the night, the rain will turn a bit more persistent. But look at those temperatures, 4-5 degrees warmer than it's been by day for much of this week. But it will make for a fairly damp start to tomorrow. But pretty quickly that rain is going to clear away north and eastwards. Then we get a dry spell. You can see the cloud starts to break up quite nicely into the afternoon. Some good spells of sunshine, but a few showers coming in. And whilst most of them will be light, there could be an odd heavy one creeping in as well. Temperatures, though, moving in the right direction. 7, 8, maybe 9 degrees, although you will still notice quite a breeze blowing along the coast and around the Isle of Wight. As for your high tide times, you can see in Portland, just the one just before midday, and then Sunday. We should get away with a dry start, but then the next weather front will push the next lot of rain in. Fairly dreary day, that band of rain making for quite a damp situation, but temperatures in double figures.
Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian Weather.
So wet and warm for the weekend, and in just a moment, the ITV Evening News. Tonight it's with Charlene White.
Stacey's got our late news, a very good reason for staying up a little bit later. But for now, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thanks very much indeed for watching. Enjoy your weekend. Take care from all of us.
Good night.
Bye.